Hi. So the gentleman here need no introduction, but for those of you quite new to the industry, I will do that anyway. To my left, we've got Dave Naylor, who is the founder and head of SEO at Bronco, extremely experienced. And to his left, we've had Bastian Grimm of Grimm Digital, one of the leading consultancies in German market and in fact across Europe. And to his left, we have Fili Wiese of Search Bros. Fili's an ex-Googler, and along with his business partner Casper, they run Search Brothers. And we're going to be talking today about some various advanced SEO tactics and techniques. I'm going to give you guys the floor and take some questions from you all, so I hope you've got plenty of them. But actually, I want to start by asking if anybody's had any recent difficulties with algorithm updates. In particular, I'm thinking about the recent mobile algorithm update.
Bizarrely enough, we've for the first time in 2 years, I've seen 2 sites de-indexed, one under my watch and one under a friend's watch, which it's kind of like a bit new for me. You know what I mean? I was used to getting sites penalised and kicked out of Google, but I thought I'd fix my evil ways. Apparently, if you take around about 17 million mobile users a month and then push them through a washer, and if Google Organics picks up on this, they de-index you. And that happened straight after the update. So basically what they were doing was buying in, it's an adult website, so they were buying in adult traffic from like XOClick, Plugzy, people like that, pushing it through a filter, taking what they wanted out of country-specific mobile type, so iPhones and stuff like that. They would push them to their iPhone store, and anything else they would just push it back into the recycling industry, push it back into XOClick and stuff like that. Google banned them for cloaking. They're not really cloaking, they're buying traffic in, moving it around the website and pushing it back out. But Google Organics sniffed this and just banned them. So mobile traffic in Google Organics can be a real serious pain in the arse. I reckon if you did some tests on it and bought XOClick traffic and pushed it into a website, I think you'd cause them a load of pain, certainly short term or even medium term. In Google Organics, I can see it being the new negative SEO in this industry.
Fili or Bastian, do you have anything to add on that? Have you noticed any common symptoms about this mobile algo update?
Not really. No, it's all good. I haven't seen any big problems. Like, I like these things, like what you hear like this, but I've not heard like or seen many problems on this one. Bastian?
Well, not problems directly, but I guess what I think is really important is like you kind of watch like the JavaScripts, the CSS files, all the stuff that kind of hangs around in the source code, and just make sure that, I mean, it's like Google is saying that for what, like 2 years now, make it like indexable, make it indexable. Even though I kind of think it's bullshit in a sense, because they just don't need to see my scripts, but it really might get you into trouble if you're still like blocking that out. So if you have stuff that kind of is there for SEO purposes, you might want to split your JavaScripts and then have the stuff that's responsible for layout being kind of crawlable and indexable in a sense. Just to prevent that, really. So I would kind of carefully watch what CMSs generate and what they put where, and then if that is really kind of there, and check it with, like in Webmaster Tools, there's that like fetch and render thing, just to verify if it really works. So you might want to have a look on that as well.
And just for reference on the fetch and render thing, if you're using the smartphone one, that's not the one that's going to trip you up in Google Organics. Google Organics, the normal Googlebot, is actually checking for mobile and for desktop now. That's what the update was really about. The smartphone one it's almost like a red herring. You know what I mean? It was designed literally so that it would render it as a mobile phone. It was nothing to do with the actual penalization or the checking of anything. Googlebot was doing all the, is this organic, is this desktop, is this mobile, is this Chrome Store, App Store usage. So that's the one you've got to watch for. Smartphone bot, don't worry about it. There's just, that won't hurt you. It's if Google Organic gets into your mobile side and it's not the same as your organic side, The classic one that and I don't even know how to but I do know how to stop it. What they did, they were quite a large content website. On the desktop, you got the full article. When you went to the mobile phone, you got the first 3 or 4 lines, and then a big message that says, download our app, it's quicker, and then nothing else. So if you wanted to read the news on your mobile phone, you had to download their app. That then obviously downloaded their RSSs straight onto your phone, and everything was happy. I thought it was a brilliant idea. They thought it was a brilliant idea. Google thought it was cloaking, and they get the index for it. Now, if you go to somewhere like, I think it was last night, wasn't we talking about it, TripAdvisor or Yelp or one of the local ones, they do exactly the same, except what they do is they embed it right at the top. At least I was given a bit of content. They embed it right at the very top, and then they put all the content that was on the desktop below the fold. And I think that's the only thing that's saving them. So if you are using the mobile sniff and redirect, then make sure that the redirect kicks in on user interaction. So don't just push them, make sure that they've got to put the finger on the mobile phone. It's the only way you're going to get away from the non-cloaking penalization, I think.
Yeah, so one thing to add, this doesn't apply just for sites that have apps. Like I've heard in the industry say like, hey, yeah, we can remove some elements from our website, or we can hide some of the text because, you know what, it's way too long. We don't want to offer the user the same navigational options as we have on our desktop site. Google said that in the past already. That is a bad idea. They really want to see a one-on-one similar thing. That's the reason why also they go for responsive design as a preference. Instead of separate sites. And now, one of the things is you can hide the content. Just make it accessible. If you want to collapse it, think Wikipedia on mobile. You know, where you have basically the headings instead of like if you come to on a Wikipedia article with a desktop browser, you see the whole article. Come with a mobile smartphone, you see it all collapsed. You see maybe the first paragraph or the first heading expanded, but that's about it. And that's basically okay. Why? Because the content is still there, you can still access it, it's up to the user, but the content is there. And that's the key thing to keep in mind.
Would you say that's really the only line that's drawn in between using different content rendering in terms of what you can get away with and what might be the right line to walk in terms of what's a good user experience? That's the limit? Or do you think there's any other room?
Well, user experience is actually very important in this case, because if you're being ranked on keywords that are on your desktop site but they're not accessible on your mobile site, that's going to hurt your bounce rate. That's going to hurt like your site significantly over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there was a guy that was doing football videos, affiliate, doing quite well. His desktop embedded the videos. His mobile actually just linked to the CDN. So it was like, if it was, I don't know, footballvideos.com, his videos were stored on cdn.footballvideos.com. As he got bigger, he moved them off into the cloud somewhere, most probably on an Amazon one, I think it was, can't quite remember. But he just hot linked them from his mobile phone device. So the idea behind it, from his point of view, it was better for the user experience that you get a list of all of them. There's a title, you click on it, and it opens up the YouTube app or whatever app you render your video in. He got penalised for it. Again, they classed as cloaking because he was delivering video on desktop and no video on mobile. Now, this might sound like it's a problem for mobile phones, but it isn't. It's a problem for organic desktop, because what we've seen over the past most probably 18 to 12 months now is that what we're seeing customization-wise is Google Organics is not bothered about desktop. They're bothered about Android. So everything that they're targeting now is Android deliverable. So if your site doesn't work on an Android device, you're going to struggle long term in Google Organics, whether it's in the DE, the .com, the .co.uk. That search engine is pushing out results for mobile users. And we were talking when we earlier about how many, the split between desktop and mobile or viewpoint applications. So if it could be an iPad or an Android device, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a phone, a tablet. Organic Google is rendering for that, not for your desktops, not for your laptops, and results will be starting to see filter through more and more and more. The stuff that isn't ready for Android, you're just not going to rank well. I'm not going to say that you're not going to be there, because there's certain brands that have got so much equity that if Amazon, decided that they weren't going to have the app anymore and you had to basically browse it and stretch it all out with your fingers, Google would still rank them. You know what I mean? Because the user still wants to see Amazon. But we've had friendly letters to our clients from Google explaining things like viewport, increasing font size, because it's hard to use on a mobile phone. If they're telling our clients to do that, I'm pretty sure that that's the direction that they're heading in.
And they even added that to Webmaster Tools as well, isn't it? I mean, all the suggestions are there. Like, I mean, they tell you exactly that. I mean, do bigger fonts, do this, do that. So I guess, I mean, the times of mobile subdomains really, I mean, that doesn't work. It's not going to be working in over a year or something like that. So I guess full responsive is probably the only response to that, in my opinion.
Don't forget also that the numbers already show there's about 1 billion active 30-day users of Android, and that's just Android. We're not even talking about iPhone or BlackBerry or other. Well, the BlackBerry is not that big, but anyway, it's over 1 billion, and that number is only growing, especially with things like Android One, where they're expanding into markets like India. Now, India has 1.1 billion people or something like that, and there's at the moment somewhere between 150 to 200 million online. That's 800 plus not online yet. And with cheap phones, the only way that they're going to be online is through mobile. China, similar situation. Not everyone can have a desktop or a laptop, but they can all have a mobile phone. Mm-hmm. So that number is only going to go up. And that's already competing with the actual active users on a day-to-day basis.
And that's not even touching things like smart TVs that are Android app-driven. You know what I mean? It's like there's going to be no such thing as Windows and Mac OS. You know what I mean? It is going to be mobile on whatever platform it is, whether it's Nokia reinvented, whether it's Apple's iOS or Android. And you look at Apple, it's like everyone discounts them from entering into the search marketplace. You look at their figures on iPhones, what was it, 12 billion in the first quarter that they made? That's a lot of handsets. That's a lot of cash sat in the bank. That if they decided that they wanted to build, I don't know, something to combat Google Maps, and that didn't work out so good the first time around, but if they wanted to use a user intelligent search engine, the other Apple users rate these things. You know what I mean? Google's invested billions in computer AI. And you've got to ask yourself, is this just for self-drive vehicles? Or is this really, they want to learn what humans are really searching for? And I can say now, the three of us, we'll search for things and we're looking for different results. Google at the moment can only supply one set of results for one set of keywords. If they get the AI programs working, there is no organics. It's
already with personalization also on top of that. They can, it's not a problem.
That's a learning history. The problem with that is you scrub your cookies, you scrub your history, you change your username, and away you go. I spoke to an analytics guy about 2 years ago when they were talking about DNA in humans. And he said, I reckon in 6 months' time, if you walked out of this conference now, walked into Kerry's, picked up a new laptop, didn't sign into Google, didn't do anything, just went to Google organic search from a Starbucks that you've never been into before, within about 20 queries, he reckons he could work out it was me. That scared me a little bit. Now, I don't know if he was just trying to scare me a little bit, because people do that every now and again. Google once over, when you search my company address, it was my home address. That was awesome. It was also awesome, it was my old house. So that was even funnier. But they bought the directors database. and they use that to populate businesses on Google Maps. You know what I mean? So that they think outside the box a lot of the time.
I mean, it's the same with the travel database. I mean, it's a while ago they bought the IATA database for and then everyone is surprised that they launched a flight search. I mean, wow. And same with robotics. They're the biggest robotics company in the world now.
Mm-hmm. Elon Musk. Yeah, they bought Elon Musk's company, didn't they? I think it was like 400 billion or something like that. Yeah. So why don't we take it forward a little step then and talk about, so taking it past mobile, talking about the totality of the search experience and quasi artificial intelligence. So it's it's more machine learning and proclivity modeling really, isn't it? What do we think might be the future for gaming with more immersive experiences like augmented reality? If we think about Windows 10 and the HoloLens or Oculus Rift, is there any future in that sort of thing?
No.
Too speculative.
It is. I mean, the problem is it depends who gets behind it. You know, it really does. It's like Google have just knocked on Google Glass on the head now, haven't they? They said, it's gone. It was great while it lasted. And it was like, really? It's like walking around looking like a total dickhead with a camera on your head. That was a good idea for a period of time.
I always found it looking like that reporter in Star Trek Generations on where they were filming Kirk doing something on the bridge of the Enterprise B or whatever. It's fun, and don't get me wrong, it's a gadget. Most of the stuff is Android Wear nowadays, gadgets. Yeah. It's fun.
In Sweden, I don't know if you read the article just recently, that there's a big office block and they've started putting chips into people's hands so they can open doors, pay for food. And to me, I just love that sort of shit. I mean, can you imagine walking up to your home door and going, open, and it's like, coffee. Why do you need a device that isn't chipped inside your body? You know what I mean? And I think it's most probably a good 10 years away, and hopefully I'll be old and on a yacht somewhere by then. But it's coming, you know what I mean? It has to. It's like, you can imagine if you look at the way that mobile has evolved. When I was 20, I couldn't afford a mobile phone. You had to carry them around with a car battery attached to them. When my next door neighbour got one, he thought it was awesome. Till I tried to take it out of the car. He's like, no, they fitted in the car. You can't take them out. That's a car phone. If you want to take it out, you've got to get the next model, which is like a car battery with the phone sat on top of it. As the internet came out, you had different communities. You know what I mean? You couldn't connect the communities. And now all of a sudden, you know what I mean, we can sit here and we can do whatever we want. We can stream HD movies live if we wanted to. You know what I mean? We can check data so quickly, and the data's returned to us so quickly. But this is only a short period of time. This is one generation. Mm-hmm. And there, you know what I mean, you look at some of the stuff that's in Microsoft Labs at the moment, that's crazy ass stuff. You know what I mean? They've had stuff like flexible screens for, it was the first time I saw it, maybe 6 years ago, which was like a piece of Perspex. And you could roll it up, you can unroll it back out, and you can use it as a keyboard, you can use it as a screen. They just don't know how to market it yet, so they're just keeping it back because of all the elements that they put into desktop touch, the big table tablets that were like 100 grand a throw. They couldn't make it work, but the tech's there.
It is there, and I think there's some really interesting speculative stuff to come in the next few years. But what I'd like to do, we've got about 30 minutes left, so I think if we take it back to the here and now and talk about some of the real world issues that you guys might have, I'm going to open it up to the floor and ask if anybody's got any questions about the P word, penalties by that, any advanced technical issues, anything that anybody would like some help from while you've got some of these really experienced guys here. Can I see any hands?
Do you think that's click-through rates factor into the algorithm, like what Nick was saying earlier? Do you believe that? Or do you think
Fili?
it's like a messy signal? Because I've heard Matt Cut say that users click on spam results a lot, and it's not a good signal to users.
So CTR most definitely plays a role, and I agree that it is something that you should take into account. Actually, you can get the data indeed, as Nick highlighted in Google Webmaster Tools. However, it's a limited view. The reason why is because there's also another element to it. That's bounce rate. And I'm not talking about the bounce rate of your website. I'm talking about the bounce rate your listing has in Google SERP. And that's the data that you don't get. So, for example, if you get a lot of users click on your website in the SERPs, CTR spamming basically, chances are that they're going to look for something else at some point, or depending on, obviously, how you hire these people. But there's a good chance that at some point they're going to refine it and don't click on you. Or they go back to Google search. You have a bounce there. For normal users, that's also something to keep in mind. Like a lot of users that come to your website don't find what they're looking for. Again, this is why it is important to have the content on your website. Even if you hide it a little bit on the mobile, it still needs to be accessible. Because if the user can't find what they're looking for, what they were expecting the moment they saw your search listing. So literally, whenever just imagine for yourself for a second, if you're looking at a search result on a mobile or desktop, doesn't really matter, and for any query, you have an expectation what you're going to get if you click on that search result. If you don't get what you think you're going to expect, you're going to go back, click either the next one, or refine your query, or do both even.
That's if you can get back.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Okay. There are very fun stuff that you can do to avoid the user from going back. Obviously, you can manipulate it. But like you say already, with clean computers, Google can still figure out very fast who you are as a user. So it's going to be very hard to trick, even if you trick it for the immediate signal. Like, okay, you prevent the user from going back by, for example, disabling the back button or something else. There's plenty of techniques that you can do. Chances are they're going to type in another window, google.com or google.co.uk, type the query again, or a refinement of the query. At that point, Google already knows, again, that your site was not satisfactory. And that's, again, a -1 for you. So CTR spamming most definitely can have some short-term effect. I wouldn't see it as a long-term something. You need to really focus on providing providing a good user experience. It's all about managing and exceeding, preferably, user expectations.
Okay, thank you.
Can you imagine if you were CTR spamming and say that for your keyword term it was, I don't know, average 10 to 20,000 uniques a day. So you decide to put, I don't know, 50, 60,000 uniques a day into your website through Google. Or you decide to put 60,000 into everybody else's website, or just the ones above you. From an egg SEO point of view, it's so easy to achieve.
Can I just add to all this, by the way? So I was the guy who talked before. I didn't talk about bounce rates because I was talking about engagement, which implicitly suggests that actually you hang around. So you're absolutely right. If you go and do a bunch of CTR spamming, it's quite easy to spot. You're going to get done. It's a little bit more sophisticated.
Not if you're doing it against your competitors. You're not going to get done, are you?
Yeah, well, that's another story. But what I will say, by the way, just for everyone's reference, these guys know much more about technical SEO and the depths of this kind of stuff than I do. So I default to them. All I know is I see a bunch of stuff, I see a bunch of signals which tell me something to do with engagement and click-through rates and low bounce rates and all that stuff. And then I do some stuff and it proves to correlate, so therefore I'm like, okay.
So you're absolutely right. Users are the extra other force that you mentioned in your presentation. Users are that force. Just from a spamming perspective, you cannot rely on CTR spamming. Yeah, so from that perspective, no. But from the user perspective, absolutely. That's why, to be honest, what you call trust optimization, I call actually user experience marketing, providing the user with the best experience, which goes beyond trust. It goes also to, basically everything else around it, like exceeding their expectations. You know, that's like we're talking about in principle the same. So it's just different words, but in principle we're talking about the same. So absolutely, from a user perspective, you're absolutely right. That is at the moment a major factor, and it's one of the reasons why Google is also trying to do this, because they're trying to step away from links. Pretty much we've broken everything when it comes to linking. We're on the verge of breaking internal linking. Yeah, if we haven't already, with optimized anchor text and stuff like that, and we already broke like infographics, press releases, you know,
Rich
guest
snippets.
posts. Yeah,
We haven't broken them all
we haven't.
properly, not yet.
Maybe like two quick things to add on that. So the one thing I found,
you know, they send out the
Yeah.
emails for internal linking
yeah,
also.
that's what I was going to say. That's the one thing. So they're sending out like Webmaster Tools warnings for like internal linking kind of over optimization. That's the one thing I've heard. And the other thing, which is quite interesting, is that what you just said with the bounce back thing. There's also Webmaster Tools warnings for if you disable or like manipulate using JavaScript the location back kind of thing. So if you do that, well, don't do it. So they really track if you manipulate like the location history back thing and override that. Say you want to kind of disable the going back to the SERPs, but rather if someone goes back, it ends up somewhere else. They're tracking that. So the only way that seems to be still be working is using the HTML5 history API. So you could inject something into that if you really want to play with the bounce back eventually.
Like 10 pages.
Like 10 pages maybe.
Just to add that, the bounce back thing, we used to refer to it as return to SERP. The metric, did you call it that at Google? Return to SERP?
Yeah, well, it's basically the bounce rate from the Google listing.
Yeah, that's
it's
it,
not
return to
the
SERP
bounce rate that you
from
see
your
in
site.
Google Analytics. So two completely different pieces of data. You cannot compare them.
It's short clicking and long clicking, isn't it? That's what they're measuring.
Julia's itching to ask a question there, and then there's a guy to your right after you.
Yeah, just to add to what's been said, just to sum things up. So CTR manipulation actually does do its job. It's possible, but it probably takes a bit more planning than most people can imagine. It was possible, it was doable, and it achieved results back in as far as 2011, because I've done it, I know it, and it is still possible, and it still achieves result now.
Just to your right, Julia.
I have a question about the future of SEO and web components and Polymer and the whole area of the web components. What do you guys think?
I got the future of SEO. What was the second part?
Web components.
Web
Components, Polymer,
Angular,
web starter kit type of stuff. That stuff. So what's the question on that one? I know the keywords, but I played around with the code even.
The future of SEO when you think about the web components.
So, as you mean, it's like the more components that are getting embedded into websites, how we move forward with that? Or?
Yes, and also the new technologies like Polymer and the way that the web pages are constructed.
I think that what will happen is that if Google can't find it, they'll die. How many people are going to build a website in Flash these days? You know what I mean? It's like SEO has realistically killed Adobe Flash with a little bit of help from Google.
So
I think that what Google will do is they'll just invest heavily in anything that looks like it's starting to get a finger hold in there. And, you know what I mean, they sorted out Ajax and Everscroll. You know what I mean? It's like HTML5 video. That I've seen some stuff that, I don't know if it's even in public consumption yet, but HTML5 video, they can actually take the video feed and actually subtitle it straight out live in multiple languages. So they know what the content is out of that. You know what I mean? So anything that, I mean, I can't think of anything that off the top of my head where...
The key thing is, if Google can crawl it, you're normally okay. That's the key problem. Like Flash is one of the problems where they can't crawl it. JavaScript is still at times really challenging. When it comes to Polymer, when it comes to Web Starter Kit, when it comes to that kind of stuff. Now, one good thing of those particular projects is it's actually, or it originated from Google. It's like now it basically was announced on Google I/O like last year or the year before in different years, different things. Web Components, the same thing, and Yeah, in most of those cases, Google understands that. But key thing to keep in mind is they don't always talk to each other, the teams inside Google. So you can have this major thing within Google. You all know the speed thing. Google likes fast websites. Google, you have the whole page speed thing. Google likes to have secure websites, HTTPS, which it wants to preload within Chrome. Use what is it, HT whatever S list. Yeah. Then, in order to do that, you need to have an HTTPS site, and you need this one security header that has like a caching thing. Now, if you use Google App Engine on a custom domain with page speed, you can't get that. Yeah. Why? Because page speed service on App Engine is experimental, does not support additional headers, like a security header, which is in itself ridiculous. Now, I've talked to the guys in the, basically directly to some of the guys from the PageSpeed team, and basically like, why? Please add this one thing, one little header. You know, it's not a security risk. One little header. The site is running on HTTPS. The site has been approved, like the custom domain has been approved by the App Engine team to run that header. The only thing I need is that you guys in the PageSpeed servers allow me to show that header, because the PageSpeed service doesn't allow me to do that. That strips it out. And as a result, I can't serve that particular header. And I can't get preloaded on the Chrome list. Yeah, so they don't always talk to each other, and even if they do, it's not always a high priority, even though that you hear Google say everywhere, oh, sites need to be secure, sites need to be fast. And then they shoot themselves in the foot. Yeah?
Yeah, does that answer your question? Brilliant. Any more questions?
We don't know yet. Is the real answer.
Any other questions? I have one. Is it worth moving to HTTPS yet if you haven't as an affiliate? Has anybody noticed any discernible gains, or is it all risk at the moment?
No.
I don't think so either.
No, I mean, the thing is, I kind of, the way I see it, I mean, if you look at content, and there's always a question, why would you make that HTTPS? I mean, obviously, e-commerce and you know, shopping baskets and stuff like that makes all of sense. But if you're like a content-driven platform, you're not ranking any better just by switching to HTTPS. I mean, obviously, the beauty of switching to HTTPS then is, as you just said, you could use like Speedy, and you cannot use Speedy without HTTPS, which is like Google's kind of additional performance initiative, if you want to call it like that, which really makes things kind of fast. So if you look at like performance optimization, the biggest issue always is HTTP connections. Right, and if you would move to Speedy, what happens is you don't have like CSS connection, JavaScript connection, etc., etc. You don't have that. You would just open the one connection. You can stream using Speedy like multiple assets through one connection. So that's the beauty. So the only reason I would see to switch to HTTPS is if you want to combine that with using Speedy. Just purely the fact of I do HTTPS now, you're not going to be ranking any better. That's my take.
Yeah. I was going to say the other one as well is if you've been hit by Panda, one of the pre-early ones, you've done big cleanups and just can't get out of it, switching to HTTPS will cause a full recrawl of your website. Yeah. So if the crap's not linked into it anymore, that won't get pulled back in. It's like an old 301 scrubber. But that's the only reason. But actually, we've pushed quite a few people onto HTTPS, mainly because the cost of entry for HTTPS is nothing. You know what I mean? If Google said on Tuesdays someone in your company should wear a blue hat and take a photograph of it, you know what? I'd have a blue hat in my company just to take a photograph of it.
Really?
Yeah, I would say yes, but not for rankings. Actually, the two things there. One, you know that you guys may be aware that Chrome is experimenting with showing this icon next to URL when it's not secure. Now, that's one of those things that I'm thinking of, like, well, if that really gets pushed through, I don't want to have that icon next to my URL, kind of thing. It's a user perception thing. It's not as much of like, hey, rankings that was really going to drive it up. Obviously, it's one of those minor signals that may boost you if you're on equal level with your competitor and they don't have it. Sure, but that's not 9 out of 10 or even more. It's not likely to be the deciding factor. So from a ranking perspective, not really. When it comes to user perspective, I think yes. However, and this is the other thing, I'm starting to think a little bit, now this is pure theory though, I'm starting to think a little bit, Google doesn't want just the web to be secure like after Snowden, the whole thing, like, yeah, we need to secure everything. I think they play that as the marketing strategy. The real reason is if we strip, or if we put the whole World Wide Web on HTTPS and no one can track anymore, they can.
Of course they can.
Their database becomes a lot more valuable.
If everyone goes HTTPS, it becomes insecure. That's the whole freaking problem. You know what I mean? It's like, if you look at the way, so if you've never looked into security and inline security, which is what we're talking about with HTTPS, is that if you connect HTTPS to HTTPS, it opens up an open channel. So if you've got HTTPS sniffers on one site, whatever traffic comes into it, you can sniff it. It's not secure. It's just another protocol. And the idea behind it is you've got HTTP pool of the SES here and secure traffic over here. And what Google's doing is saying what we really want is all the information, and while we've got HTTP here and HTTPS here, we can't have all the information because we either have to go secure, we can't read this shit, we can only read this, or we have to go non-secure and we can't read this. So they push you all over to one, they push you over to secure. But you look at Google, it is secure, and you look at Google Analytics, it's on HTTPS. They want to read the traffic. They want to deliver ads to everything, and while the bulk of the internet is still on HTTP, they have to run two protocols. They don't want to, they want one. It's a self-serving thing for them.
I also think there's a problem for others to intercept that HTTPS traffic though. And
not if you're embedding on HTTPS.
No, but more like, it's difficult for the other competitors basically to really tap into that pool of that data, building basically a more unique database at Google that no one has access to but Google, thereby kind of like of course we hear the keyword from PR like no, we want to make the web secure, and I can see where that comes from. Now again, this is pure theory, but I can see where that comes from, but at the same time I'm wondering okay, maybe there might be a separate reason why this is happening. Now, to be honest, I'm fine with it either way, to be honest, because they're going to get the data anyway.
Oh yeah.
So that part I don't really mind. Yeah.
Maybe one of the things that you guys need to consider is if you look at your SERPs and the keywords you're competing with. So what we saw is that getting rich snippets on HTTPS takes way longer than getting rich snippets on HTTP. So if you look at what you're ranking for right now and you consider switching to HTTPS, well, if no one has rich snippets, it's probably easy. But if they all have and you're not getting them quickly or getting them back quickly, you might gonna have a problem, and then we're back with CTR. So that might be something you want to have to look at this as well.
And those free SSL certificates that what was it? The Electronic Front Foundation wants to come with towards mid this year. Yeah, I can see pretty much every spammer starting to use that one for free. Thanks. That's good. And in the meantime, while that stuff isn't available, no, we just increase business costs for everyone else. It's like, I know these SSL certificates aren't expensive, but a lot of people don't know how to install them or which one to pick, even with all those wizards out there. Oh, if you want this, then you want that. They want to sell the most expensive version.
So here's the thing that really grinds on me, is that Google wants to secure the web. So what they did was made it look like if you were using HTTPS, you'd get the no keyword links coming back. Pretty much. That's how it first started to look. And then you realise that's bullshit. What they're doing is actually redirecting through a scrubber and taking the keywords out for anyone who's signed into Google. So it's not the fact that they want to protect the website, the user's privacy. They just don't want competitors working out what those keywords were. So people started to get a bit clever to that and started coming up with clever ways to actually try and get that data back, which you can't. No matter which way you spin it, you can look at it and make an educated guess that the fact that something like this landing page has this keyword spread, this landing page has had 100 people across these keywords with 20,000 non-referring keywords, I can guess my split is something down here. If Google wants to really mess with you, they just don't show you the keyword at all that you rank for. It doesn't even appear in analytics. But HTTPS is
gentleman in the purple top, sorry. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it, go for it. We've got a couple of questions, guys.
Yeah.
We've got 10 minutes. I just want to get the audience in.
Okay, thanks. What do you think about the new top-level domains? Is it a good idea to start some new things with like .club, .music or .world domain?
New top-level domains.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah.
There's so much opportunities there. Now, I think it depends. Very much. Like, absolutely. Like every other TLD, you can make a very successful site with it. And you can get some nice keywords that, you know, if you could get poker.club, I'm sure that people will remember it. So from a type perspective, absolutely, user perspective, it can be attractive. Most people, though, and if I'm talking about the average public, like the mums and pops down the street, and even my parents or my friends' parents or whatever, they have already trouble understanding that there is, for example, a .co.uk and a .com. That what the difference is between those. If you then tell them there's a .london, they go completely, You know, it's like, okay. So marketing will be the key problem. If we look at, for example, .eu, which is a great example in this case, how long it took for those .eu domain names to appear on vans of plumbers driving around, you know, or other businesses.
You get vans driving around with like mrplumber.bt connect./home/user7892.
Yeah, or aircom.net or something.
Service. I'll write that one down later.
Yeah. I've seen them even with Gmail, Yahoo, etc. You know, it's like, yes, the new TLDs, they can be fun, and yes, you can put something on it, but you need to treat it as any other domain without any history. Google's not going to trust it any more or less. But if you think like, hey, Poker Club, for example, just taking the example, I don't have it, but you know, that'd be great. Then you can use it from a user perspective. Absolutely, you can use it from a brandability.
But don't think that someone wouldn't come along with pokerclub.com and nail your ass in the SERPs for it.
True.
Yeah, but on the positive, though, you know that if you're getting a new TLD, it's got no murky past, it's got no bad history, it's got no black mark against it.
And if enough SEOs say it, then the new TLDs will work. You know, if enough people say that there's not a domain out there that hasn't been soiled in the last 5 years, and Google is not going to rank it, so you might as well go for a .london or a .eu, because you've got as equally good chance of making those rank over an expired domain. Then the twist will go.
I do think, though, that the local TLDs, so focus on local names like .berlin, .sydney, .london, .nyc, that those have a bigger chance than like .link, .club, whatever. And the key reason why is because there's already a community that feels themselves associated with that. There's a bigger chance of adoption within that local area. Now, it's still a chance. You still have to do the legwork to actually make it be adopted. But if you have something like xyz.london, then you have a bigger chance than if you have xyz.xyz. By the way, whoever came up with .xyz, anyway.
It's like XXX. You don't see any of them ranking for the porn terms.
No.
Self-identification. There was another question over here. Do you still have your question?
Just a short one. Connected this topic. For me, it's really interesting that, for example, .club domain, it's available more than a year. And if you search for the simple phrase club with Google, you won't find any .club domain in the first 30 pages.
Yet.
And what's the reason for it compared to the .com?
Non-trusted.
No real content yet on it, compared to any other ones. The other ones have history.
Now, if you look at something like gb.org or gb.com, loads of trust there, not anymore.
Okay. Is there another question? Yeah, okay.
Hi. What would you think about the disavow tool, and would you use it for both manual and algorithmic penalties?
Ooh.
Yes.
Dave?
Yeah, why not? I mean, the question is, why would you not use it? I guess if you turn it around, there purely are links that you just cannot get rid of. So, in my opinion, at some point, if you try to remove them manually first, and you couldn't succeed, or there's just, all these scrapers and whatever, where you won't get a hold of anyways, use it.
What's the background of your question? Have you heard people saying that you can get out of the penalty with the disavow only? Is this where this is coming from?
Yeah, I mean, one of my sites had a manual penalty that we got removed eventually. It took a long time. But I've also heard that if you have an algorithmic penalty, rather than spend all the time trying to nuke your links and potentially get rid of good ones, then to build better quality links to combat it.
Well, an algorithmic penalty isn't technically a penalty. It's a filtered demotion. It's a mentality.
Yeah, I keep falling over that as well. Algorithmic penalties do not exist.
It's like tomatoes and tomatoes are different things, apparently, because you get green ones and red ones. That's bullshit.
No,
it's a penalty. If Google's holding you back, it's a
recalculation. That's a big difference. How an algorithm calculates and values your website, by the way, those are at the moment still updates, kind of like enforced manually, but they not per site manually. It's just run manually, and then numbers come out at the end. Versus a manual penalty, where someone goes down, analyzes your website, and applies a manual penalty. That is manual.
I agree with that, but that's not the penalty side of it. That's manual. If Google comes along and goes, you're cloaking, and de-indexes you,
that's also still a penalty.
But that wasn't manual.
Depends. Well, if it's penalty, yeah. If it's a manual action, it's manual.
Yes.
But then, so let's say penguin
penalty.
then. If you're hit by a penguin filter, that's an algorithmic demotion. How does the guy get out of that?
Not filter.
What's going to happen?
Recalculation. That's again the difference. No. It's really recalculation. You have a formula. You have a formula, and values of that formula changes. The outcome changes because of that. That's a recalculation.
Yeah.
It's not a filter.
So can we get out of that with a disavow only?
Penalty, yeah. Algorithmic penalty, yeah. I mean, what it feels like is you are being penalised because of the backlinks that you've bought in the past, and Google's ran a algorithmic program over there to do manual actions against your website. Penguin doesn't really promote websites that have got good links. It just demotes. Mm-hmm. So it's a slapdown. You know what I mean? It's like they don't have like the Emperor Penguin algorithm that runs across the internet and finds really good links and boosts people. You've got all this shit, but that golden nugget over there is going to make you #1. That was the Emperor Penguin update. Oh, the little baby penguins that are freezing to death update. That's the bad one. That's all your press releases, all your blog posts, all your comment spam, all your redirects, all the other crap that you can think of that you can bundle in that Google can think of to put it into one algorithm and slap you down. To answer your question, I look at my disavow files, my backlinks, more than I look at my rankings. On a day-to-day basis, I can most probably say we're going to lose rankings in 3 weeks' time because what's happening right now. Mm-hmm. If I'm looking at my rankings, I'm being, you know what I mean, I'm waiting for the disaster to happen. So yeah, to me, our disavow files get updated constantly. We have Python scripts that bring down Ahrefs, Majestic. They also break into Webmaster Tools and steal all the data out of that because there's not an API for it.
Yet.
There won't be. There was an API, they took it away, the dickheads. So you get all of this data, you crawl it, you find out what's live, and we have humans that go through it and basically tweak it on the first iteration. And then we look for commonalities, and we just basically keep the disavow files up to date. You know what I mean? We charge a management fee to all of our clients for that. And it's not me just, it saves my ass so many times when I go, actually, you're a car retailer, why have you got a load of like Viagra, Cialis links coming out of all these forums? I'll get them on the disavow list today because we're seeing them now. Google will be seeing them, but there's that 2 weeks grace where Google sees them and says, hey dude, have you seen this bad karma that's going on? You might want to do something about it. And if you're quick enough off the mark, nothing bad happens. If you're not quick enough off the mark, you get burnt down. And that's negative SEO. That's the beautiful world of just kind of going, I've got way too much time on my hands. What can I do with exit traffic? And you can really damage shit with it, you know what I mean? And if you forget that you're damaging shit and go on holiday and come back, then damages, you know what I mean? It's like disavow files, yes, keep them up to date. Manual penalties, you have to ask Google, yeah, to release you. Whether you've just done disavow and no removal will really come down, and Fili will back me up on this, I guess, it'll really come down to the human that is looking at your case at that moment in time. You get someone who's really in a bad ass mood, maybe he's got a splinter in the finger or something like that, and no, they're not, no, all day long.
Yeah, the key thing there is don't make reconsideration requests like your thesis. Yeah. There is no time for them to read that.
It's always worth chucking the sneaky straight one straight away, yeah, as well.
It's just no
After
point.
3,
yeah.
you're done.
Okay, I hope that's answered your question, because we are out of time, guys. Well done, thank you very much. I'm sure they'll stick around for any other questions, should anybody have any, but we got a little round of applause there for Fili, Bastian and Dave.